The cover up in the Trump regime continues, or should I say, the cover ups. Which one? All of them. All they do is lie and cover up their criminality. But of course, we'll talk about Attorney General Pam Bondi's disastrous hearing, where no matter what side of the political aisle you're from, or regardless of if you watch politics or care about news in general, you can observe that that was one of the biggest train wrecks in American history in any context at all. We will break it down. Also, Donald Trump's tariffs against the world are now being revoked by the House of Representatives. Now, Trump will still try to veto what the House is doing, but the House started by revoking Donald Trump's tariffs against Canada. And this is after MAGA Mike lost on bringing what's called a rule to the floor, where MAGA Mike wanted to block debate on the issue of tariffs for another year. And MAGA Mike and Donald Trump continue to cover up the Epstein sex trafficking ring as well. We will break that down. And one of the things they're doing is the Trump DOJ is spying on lawmakers who have been given limited access to a special facility where they're able to look at the unredacted Epstein files, which should all be produced. They're unlawfully being redacted and turned over when they started rolling these documents out back in December and then more recently. But the Trump DOJ is spying on the search history of members of Congress. And then you had Pam Bondi with her burn book during her testimony, where it was seen that they were looking at the search history of members of Congress. We will talk about that. We have Tom Homan in Minnesota announcing today that ICE and Border Patrol will be leaving that state, but you can't trust, and you always need to verify when it comes to the lying scumbags that are the Trump regime. We'll take a look at that. You have Senator Mark Kelly winning a big preliminary injunction against the Trump regime and the Department of Defense, which was trying to reduce his pay and engage in other proceedings against him for speaking, as is his First Amendment right, with other lawmakers, to say that it is a crime to follow unlawful orders and that the military should not follow criminal unlawful orders by the Trump regime. And of course, we also learned how the Trump regime tried to indict the 6 lawmakers who made that video telling the troops don't follow unlawful orders, the 2 senators and the 4 Democratic Congress members. But yet again, a grand jury rejected the Trump schemes and indictments that they're trying to bring. An unprecedented number of indictments now have just been rejected by grand juries across the country. And this one took place in Washington, D.C., where Jeanine Pirro was the one who tried to bring that indictment. And also, interestingly, Jeanine Pirro filed a trip and fall lawsuit today with, I believe, her husband representing her in a trip and fall personal injury case where she's seeking $250,000. Let's bring in Brett and Jordy brothers. How are you doing?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Midas Mighty? Great to be here, everybody watching live or watching after the fact or listening on the MeidasTouch Podcast. Very good to be here. This truly is like the most deranged regime that we have ever seen. And at this point, we just see the wheels are coming off. And we've been kind of tracking this over the past few weeks, the cracks emerging within the MAGA movement. And this Epstein story has been a major part of that because it really gets to the heart of everything that this regime pretended to be about, even though it was as ridiculous as imaginable to think that Donald Trump was going to be the guy who stood up to the elites and the deep state and all, and the pedos and everything that they said. It was ridiculous on its face, but they are the dog that caught the car. They pushed this story. They tried to weaponize it against their political opponents. And now that the truth is coming out, they simply do not know what to do. And the way they are behaving is so offensive, is so grotesque, is just like, honestly, a bunch of insane people that even many of the most diehard Trump supporters out there are going, wait a second, if they're lying to me about this, if they're lying to me about something as heinous as a child sex trafficking ring, if they refuse to even look these Epstein survivors in the eye, then what else are they hiding? What else are they lying to me about? And the answer is, well, basically everything, for pretty much all of it. They're lying nonstop every single day. You have the most inept people in every position. It's the definition of a kakistocracy. It's offensive, it's grotesque, it's un-American. We're going to cover all the latest that's going on there. First we got to check in with Jordy. Jordy, what's the latest, man?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Midas Mighty? I am excited to get into tonight's show. But before we do, quick housekeeping note. We are like almost 60,000 followers on this YouTube channel away from hitting 6 million subscribers. So please,
let's go.
If you haven't already, check to see if you're subscribed. It's totally free to subscribe. Check to see if you're subscribed. Some people think that they're subscribed, but they're actually not. So just give it a quick double check. And if you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million this month, y'all. And Brett, exactly. Ben, I'm going to toss it to you in 1 second. But it's the folks in the Trump regime, man. It's why I call them creatures. They have no allegiance to the American people. They have no allegiance to truth, but they do have allegiance to one person. And they've pledged all their allegiance to him, and that's Donald Trump. And so when this regime continues to lie in your face and honestly just look at you and tell you basically you're stupid for caring about the Epstein files, you're stupid for caring about the survivors, and there's nothing to see here. The Dow's over 50,000, which it's no longer. But anyway, these creatures in the Trump regime, man, evil people. And that's just what it comes down to, right? They have pledged their allegiance to one person, and his name is Donald Trump. And at the root of it, they are just evil people, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, look, people are looking at this regime as the pedo regime, right? Because they're covering up a child sex trafficking ring. It's people who aren't day-to-day in politics are talking about this. It's so bad what they're doing. And then it's also highlighting all the other issues. As I mentioned, the cover-ups on tops of cover-ups and the disasters on tops of disasters. I mean, Trump can say, I took this country from extinction and now we're in a golden age where prescription drug prices have never been cheaper, where healthcare costs are down. You've never had healthcare so good, and everybody's able to now have homes and people are doing fantastic and the economy is booming. It's like, no, it isn't. You're a liar. You're making this up. People are psychologically tortured, living paycheck to paycheck if they're lucky enough to get a paycheck. They can't afford rent. They can't afford a mortgage. People are having their health care ripped away from them. People in America right now who have not enrolled in any health care plan are hoping that they don't get sick, at least for the foreseeable future. They're hoping that they can just ride it out. And people are dying, and this doesn't get enough attention because of Trump regime cruelty, right? People are choosing not to go see doctors right now because they don't have health insurance, because they can't afford to go to a checkup. And so preventative types of visits are now not happening, and people are dying. Yet alone, I mean, how many people do you think this Trump regime has killed? I think on the low end, how many people have they murdered in cold blood, right? And this isn't talked about enough. On the low end, 10,000, 50,000 people they may have killed. They may have killed millions of people when it comes to their destruction of USAID, ripping medication away from people, forcing people who could otherwise avoid it to contract HIV and AIDS, burning food in warehouses that were made and produced by Americans and farmers so that the people abroad don't get the food. You could have even brought that food, not having a smooth transition, just killing people abroad. And don't you notice too that the groups of people that the Trump regime picks on is also part of the MO of the Epstein class, don't they always seem to like go after the children, right? Or go after disabled people. They always go after those who are most vulnerable. And it's always ripping the children away, throwing the children into camps, taking away the lunch from the children, taking away education opportunities from children. And that seems to be that kind of repeating over and over again. So I wanted to say that from the outset. Pam Bondi, what can you say? Utterly unhinged. This would be an SNL skit and parody if it wasn't so deadly serious, involving a racketeering enterprise that the DOJ has become of covering up child sex trafficking, right? In a typical RICO case, everybody in the racketeering organization, whether it's the person who maybe delivers the envelope to the person who's the top boss, to the person who's the driver, they are all held responsible for the enterprise, even if they played a part in it, and even if they don't necessarily even know the conduct of others involved in the enterprise. So using the Department of Justice's own standard for prosecuting racketeering enterprises involving sex trafficking, you could apply that law and say the entire Department of Justice has become a racketeering enterprise for the purpose of covering up and ratifying child sex trafficking. It would literally be a decent, relatively inexperienced prosecutor out of law school, though, who's, an AUSA, would be able to prosecute the entire Department of Justice if that were to be the case, because it is. And I want you to think about that case, because Pam Bondi would be a witness in that case. And she'd probably do the Trump thing, the Epstein class thing, invoke the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination, right? When she has to take the stand, or if she has to take the stand in the future. But for now, she thinks that those rules don't apply and that she'll never be held accountable. And then all she has to do is go up there and do the Trump shtick. The stock market is $50,000. You live in Culver City. The Culver City is a bad city, and you should see that. So we made a montage of the lowlights of what went down. Let's start off by showing you that. Let's play it.
There was one redaction out of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
and we invited you in.
Gentlemen,
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get. You're a failed politician.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that she keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. And if they could maintain their composure, you don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you, because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in.
You're
the rules.
obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome. All of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump, you all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about.
Trying to intimidate and punish these ladies.
Your time is up.
Forward.
Okay, so just a few points, and I'll turn. I know Brett and Jordy, you're going to want to react right away. Congressman Jamie Raskin, constitutional scholar, Harvard Law, very accomplished lawyer. Some of the other people you saw, Democrats asking questions, very accomplished lawyers, people like Dan Goldman, a former top federal prosecutor out of the Southern District of New York, prosecuted mob cases, sex trafficking cases, right? Like, knew what he was looking for, knew how to cross-examine. You know who's not a licensed lawyer on the Judiciary Committee? You know who's not? Hint. He's also involved in covering up sex abuse. You know who I'm talking about? Oh, the Republican chair of the Judiciary Committee. Jim Jordan never took the bar exam, yet he's the person leading the Judiciary Committee there. So I just wanted to point out, while Pam Bondi is saying to Jamie Raskin, a renowned constitutional scholar, that you are not a real lawyer, actually the not real lawyer was right there. But isn't that perfectly encapsulating MAGA. What you witnessed there is perfectly encapsulating MAGA. And what we witnessed when Donald Trump posted on social media that he thought that Pam Bondi did an incredible job and she was great, to me, that perfectly encapsulates MAGA in every respect. And so Donald Trump posted that AG Pam Bondi, under intense fire from the Trump deranged radical left lunatics, was fantastic at yesterday's hearing on the never-ending saga of Jeffrey Epstein, where the one thing that has been proven conclusively, much to their chagrin, was that President Donald J. Trump has been 100% exonerated of their ridiculous Russia type charges. Actually, it is the slimeball Democrats, many of them big donors and politicians, that have been proven guilty. Republican loser, sanctimonious rhino Congressman Thomas Massie made a total fool of himself yesterday, fighting aimlessly against a hopeless agenda of hate and stupidity, as most clearly stated by his crashing job approval numbers in the great Commonwealth of Kentucky. So, Brett, Jordy, Bondi's just using those exact talking points right there. That's what Trump wanted to see. Trump watched what we all saw. Whether you were right wing, left wing, center, we all looked at that as that was horrible. And he looked at that as great. So in law, when we take the LSATs, there was something called the logic games, right? So I would say Pam Bondi is too great, as in Donald Trump's view, United States is too great. So what does that ultimately equal right there? If that's your view of great and how you think successful leaders behave, and when Trump says these things are great, then you know that it's the worst thing. Absolutely. You don't have to use that logic game to figure that out, but you know it's the worst thing ever, Brett, Jordy.
And that's an insane person. Let's just be straight. Like, that's an actual insane person out there. And she was clearly out there performing for an audience of one. And I saw a lot of people on the MAGA side of things yesterday who were disgusted by her performance, and good. But there's still this kind of cognitive dissonance where they go, oh, it's, Trump needs to do something about her. She's gone rogue. She's doing her own thing. How could she possibly do this about Epstein? And it's like, no, that's what Donald Trump wants. She's using Donald Trump's language. And so when Donald Trump today posted that message, I actually saw a lot of these Trump people be like, oh, dude, this ain't it, man. This is not the way to go. Fire her ass. What are you doing right now? And it really is just like, it's insane. And I want to remember too, this was the serious pick, quote unquote. This was the serious pick. I had a lot of people tell me that Pam Bondi, oh, she's like legit though. And I was like, I don't think so though. Remember who he picked before Pam Bondi to be the Attorney General of the United States? Matt Gaetz, somebody who was under investigation for sex trafficking. That's how seriously that he took this role. And that's the position now that is actually looking into this sex trafficking ring. And Pam Bondi was so disgraceful going there. She had a literal burn book, like, Mean Girls. She had a book of insults written about each person out there. Our reporter on the Hill who was there, like right behind Pam Bondi, Pablo Manriquez, told us, he said, Pam Bondi has a few binders in front of her, and one of her binders is a list of insults, and there are tabs with each politician who's going to ask her questions. And she keeps flipping. He was telling us this while it was going on. She keeps flipping to the various politicians when they start, and then she looks down at her list and she makes her insult. And that's how she was handling the situation, rather than actually trying to provide information about such a serious topic. And she would just kind of go to one person. She would be like, oh yeah, well, you have crime in your district, so you shouldn't be talking. Oh, well, you do this, well, you do that. And that's just beside the point. And then she went into that bizarre rant about the Dow being $50,000. Is there anything, or 50,000, I think she said $50,000, not 50,000 points. Is there anything more out of touch than that? You're there to talk about what's going on in your Department of Justice, the rule of law. You don't have anything to do with the economy. People are asking you about Epstein and his ties to people in the administration, asking you about these survivors who you won't even look in the eye, you won't even acknowledge, you won't even apologize to at all. And you're there bringing up that the Dow hit 50,000. Are you freaking kidding me? But you see the language that Donald Trump uses. It's the same exact language that Bondi uses. And all all of these people who work for his administration, you can't come out of this administration clean. You're always going to have that Trump stank on you because Trump makes these individuals go through these humiliation rituals. That's what that was. And you see they are more than willing to do so in order to please their leader.
Yes, absolutely. Look, here's the thing. I said this online yesterday. Like, I knew Pam Bondi was this incompetent, rage-baiting, narcissistic, lying jagoff. She's also evil, like just evil. And you know what? She's a bad actor. And like, I mean, she's bad at acting, right? Because to your point exactly, Brett, she was playing for an audience of one. That's where the insults were coming from. That's why she had the burn book to remind herself of his favorite rants to go on, these tangents on these people. And that's what she was doing. For me, it comes down to this too. Like, this is forever going to be their legacy. This entire Trump regime, Donald Trump, Caroline Leavitt, Pam Bondi, all of them, pedo protectors. That's how they will go down and be defined in history, as pedo protectors. And so to all the pod bros out there, right? The pod bros, right? It's just like, come on. These are the people you're going to protect. These are the people you're going to have on your platforms and bro out with. Bro, they are protecting pedophiles. And I know we've seen a lot of these pod bros waking up to this. I'm glad they are, quite frankly. Some might say too little, too late. But hey, I'm here for people to see what's going on and to be like, hey, you know what? They're lying to me. And this is really fucked up. This is really messed up. Why? Because of the survivors here, that they don't care about finding the truth for their survivors at all. They're going to just continue to protect pedos. It's unbelievable to see come down. What happened yesterday with Bondi, it's truly embarrassing. Like, it makes my skin crawl the way she was behaving during that hearing. And again, just to find out the damn facts here. Pedo protectors, man.
I mean, well, look, Donald Trump, when he held his press conference earlier, he was using the same lines. The people were asking him questions about Epstein and Lutnick, and what do you think about that? Like, he did the exact same thing. He was like, the Dow is over $50,000. Here, play this clip.
The Dow hit 50,000. Now it's over 50,000. And
Okay, but what people are trying to ask, though, is, were you aware that Secretary Lutnick visited Epstein Island? Here, let's play this clip.
Yeah, please.
Mr. President, were you aware that Secretary of Commerce visited Epstein's island, and do you continue to have?
No, I wasn't aware of it. No, I didn't. I actually haven't spoken to him about it. I wasn't. But from what I hear, he was there with his wife and children. And I guess in some cases, some people were. I wasn't. I was never there. Somebody will someday say that. I was never there. Yeah, please.
This announcement.
So many demented things about that, but also just the way he's talking. Like, we all realize he's like a crazy demented human, right? I was never there. I was never there. I mean, well, why is this person the president of the United States? I mean, just said it. Let's just use different words. And let's say he wasn't talking about the fact that his cabinet member brought children to the island where children get raped. Like, set that aside for a moment, and then we'll address that. Let's just say he was talking about, I don't know, baseball, and that was how he communicated. We'd be like, wait, this guy's probably, something's going on, right? Like, there's something wrong with him. Is this someone who's suffering from something? But then now let's actually talk about what the topic was. Yeah, the problem that people have, Donald, is that your cabinet member, Howard Lutnick, said that he never spoke with Epstein after 2005 because he was so grossed out and disgusted and knew what Epstein was up to. But then now we've learned that he lied when he said he never had any communication after 2005. And not only that, but he thought it was a good idea when he was on notice that Epstein was a very, very horrible human. He brought his little children and then brought children of his friend and his friend over to the island. And then they did a business deal a few days later after he claimed he had no communication. That's disqualifying behavior. I mean, look at what's happening in Norway right now, where its former prime minister, who's all over these files, was charged and is now being prosecuted there. Look at what's happening across the world as leaders and people who are in these files are being held accountable. So people want to understand what you said is the problem, that he's brought his children there, and the rot and the disqualifying nature of all of this is that Trump doesn't even, he's so evil and vile that he goes, as I understood, he brought his children there. Yeah, that's really the issue. The issue is that he brought his children to the island where children were sex trafficked after he said that he knew that Epstein was doing horrible things and that he never saw Epstein. That's the part that needs to be investigated, and why he needs to go. And the fact that even if we knew nothing else about Donald Trump, let's say we didn't know that he was found civilly liable for sexual abuse. Let's say we didn't know that Donald Trump is on audio recording saying that he personally grabs women by their genitals and sexually assaults women. He says he sexually assaults women, grabs them by their genitals because he's rich, and that's what rich men get to do. Set aside that fact. Say you didn't know that. Say you didn't know that Donald Trump said because he owns beauty pageants that he got to inspect the girls naked without their consent. Just push that aside for a second, and then push aside that he says all of that is just how he believes men should behave and that it's locker room talk. Set aside the fact that he says that Epstein is a great guy who likes girls on the younger side or women on the younger side. Set that all aside. Or that he and Jeffrey Epstein did parties together at Mar-a-Lago, where it was I want to call them parties. That's what he referred to them as. But it was him and Epstein, and they would invite girls between the ages of 15 and 16 years old and 22, or right around that age group. And the people who ran the modeling agencies were told that they thought that they were sending their models to go to a modeling event in order to get work, but it would just be Donald Trump and Epstein that were there. What do you think they were doing when they're? Set aside the videos of Donald Trump licking his lips, while around Epstein, while looking at women in the building in Mar-a-Lago, and like making weird faces and like making Epstein crack up, set aside all of that, or that Melania called Ghislaine Maxwell G and said that New York Magazine article was great, where Trump said that Epstein's a great guy who likes women on the younger side, or that Ghislaine then referred to Melania as Sweet Pea. Set that all aside, that in 2006, we all know that Donald Trump has now said, apparently, according to the former police chief in West Palm Beach, said that Donald Trump told him that he was aware that Epstein would bring little girls around. And this was after Epstein was arrested, when Trump was trying to, I guess, distance himself. But then Epstein was still a guest, would still show up at Mar-a-Lago. We're still talking about being a Mar-a-Lago, set that aside. So set all of this aside. Set aside the fact that Mar-a-Lago is where sex trafficking took place, right? And I'm not saying, I don't have to say allegedly, because we know it's a fact, undisputed, that Virginia Giuffre was sex trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago when she was a child. Sex trafficked, worked at Mar-a-Lago. We set all that aside.
Seems like you can do this all episode.
Set all of that aside and just say that the president of the United States, whether it's former President Obama, former President Biden, George W. Bush, whoever, right? You learn that your cabinet member brought children to Epstein Island after specifically saying that they were on notice that Epstein was doing really bad things, but decided to bring the children, then enter into a business deal, and then go voluntarily on a public tour before the revelation that you were on the island and deny any interaction. And then you say, that's just Howard. I like him. Nothing's going to happen with him. You've now ratified that behavior. That alone, to me, is impeachable and discredited.
Can I add one more on top of that as well? All right. Now set aside. What if I went through the same? What if I did the same thing next time? Set aside all of what Ben said and the Lutnick thing as well. And now think about this. We discovered, and we knew this already from previous reporting, we knew that Bannon was doing this, but we learned in explicit detail how close Steve Bannon was to Jeffrey Epstein through these emails, through these text messages. And we learned not only were they close, but it appeared that Steve Bannon was acting as a conduit between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump through these emails. Not only that, we learned that Steve Bannon was acting as Jeffrey Epstein's crisis PR guy and was training him for, I think it was like a 60 Minutes interview, and was trying to figure out how he can rehabilitate Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex trafficker's reputation in order to get him back into high society so that he could then be in the world of politics and business and be back on the streets and doing everything and be like a good guy again in everyone's good graces. Steve Bannon, that was his whole thing. That was what Bannon was doing. That was Bannon's entire goal. And so you find out that that happens from the Epstein files. You get additional confirmation of all of that happening and like dozens and dozens of photos of Bannon and Epstein being buddy in his offices and videotapes. And, you know, Bannon interviewed him, I think, for at least like 15 hours or something like that. And all these text chains of intimate details of the United States government and global government and what Trump is up to and all of these things. And Donald Trump's reaction after learning all of that, after seeing all of that, is to make a post praising Steve Bannon and saying how amazing of a guy he is. Wouldn't you think if you wanted to say that none of that was okay with me, that your first move would say, that's not okay with me?
Brett, but then set aside that. And then you go a step further, and then you have Steve Bannon's criminal conviction in Washington, D.C., dismissed, and you order Jeanine Pirro to do the following: prosecute or try to get an indictment of 2 Democratic senators and 4 Democratic Congress members for making a video telling members of the military not to follow unlawful orders, which is a restatement of the law. Yep. So have her go in and try to get that indictment rejected, by the way, by the grand jury. And then right around the same day, file a motion to dismiss based on prosecutorial discretion, a case where Bannon was already convicted, where Bannon was going to make a frivolous appeal to the United States Supreme Court. So technically the case remains pending, even though he was convicted of obstruction of Congress in connection with the January 6th committee, but then dismiss that case right after all of the news breaks regarding Bannon's connections with Epstein. So it's not even, Jordy, I'll throw it to you, quickly. It's not even a question. And this is what you said, Jordy, if you support this guy, this is who you are. Like, you're into this stuff. Like, that is you. That defines you. And there's no way you can be like, well, actually, I support this piece, but no, if you're with that, that's who you are. And I think that right now, that's why independents are like, I can't be near this crew, right? I need like a restraining order to get away from me. And even right-wing people are like, I can't be seen around you. Like, y'all should probably be on a registry. Like, I can't hang with you. I can't be wearing that. If I'm wearing the hat, people are going to think that I was on the island. Like they're going to think that I'm with this. So I can't even, these people may like some of the horrible thing. I like the masked agents, I like the Gestapo, you're cruel. You were very cruel and terroristic, but I can't be associated. I can't wear, you're going to make me wear a mask soon.
Exactly.
Because I can't be associated with you.
Well, because you can no longer cherry pick, or not that you ever were able to, but you can no longer cherry pick and get away with it, right? I like the fiscal policy of Donald Trump administration. Again, that's all bullshit. Anyone that just says that's a liar. But I don't like this stuff over here. Okay, but I like the masked ICE agents on the streets, but this stuff over here I don't like. Okay, but the thing that you don't like, if you're going to go to that defense now, are pedo protectors. That's what you're saying. So you have to own the entire Trump regime now. Like that's yours. You're either all in on protecting pedos, or you're not, or you want the truth, or you want justice for the survivors. It's clear as day to me. The Trump regime, these are bad people. And the more evidence that comes out, the more that continues to be true, and the more that will continue to be true. So plant your flag right now. Where do you stand? Are you going to be pro-pedo protectors? Or are you going to be pro-truth, pro-survivors? These are real people. And it's just, it's astonishing to me the way people bend over backwards to justify it. But in this instance, very specifically right here, it's an impossible thing to distance yourself from. But pedo-protecting, come on, that's not a thing anymore. Never was a thing, and you're not going to get away with that.
Reminder, we're on our way to 6 million subscribers. Nice audience this evening. You may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. So double check that you are subscribed, hit subscribe, turn on those notifications. And if you want to join and become a member of the YouTube channel and get access to like the show I do with Ron Filipkowski, Ask the Editor, and other exclusive bonus features, you could do that too and gift memberships to others.
Emojis.
Make sure you get access to the emojis. Also, check out our Substack, MeidasPlus.com, and subscribe to the MeidasTouch audio podcast as well. So we will be right back after our first quick break of the show.
Knockoffs might look the same at first, but we all know they never hold up. Leaf Filter isn't just another gutter guard. It's a trusted name that's built to last with years of relentless engineering behind it. Don't settle for a knockoff. Protect your home with Leaf Filter and save up to 30% off your entire purchase at leaffilter.com/Meidas. Now I have to tell you, it is so convenient never having to worry about my gutters at all now. Not only is Leaf Filter amazing at what they do, but it gives me so much more time now to enjoy my outdoor space instead of worrying about my gutters. An investment in Leaf Filter is an investment engineered to protect your whole home. Clogged gutters aren't just annoying. They can cause extensive water damage. Leaf Filter is your permanent solution to clogged gutters. Every installation comes with a lifetime clog-free guarantee. With more than 50 design and engineering patents, Leaf Filter is trusted by over 1 million homes. From drizzles to downpours, Leaf Filter is engineered to protect in every condition. Let Leaf Filter's trusted pro handle it. Call today to schedule your free gutter inspection and get a no obligation free estimate. A Leaf Filter trusted pro will clean out, realign, and seal your gutters before installing Leaf Filter. Engineering, reliability, and performance. That's what makes Leaf Filters America's #1 gutter protection system. Start protecting your home today with Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system. Schedule your free inspection at leaffilter.com/Meidas. That's up to 35% off at leaffilter.com/Meidas. Disclaimer, see representative for warranty details.
You know how on a first date, when you're really interested in someone, you don't just talk about the weather. You ask the important stuff. What are you looking for? What are your deal breakers? Where do you see yourself going? Because you don't want to waste time. You want to know if it's actually a match. Well, the same goes if you're hiring. You definitely want to address key questions first to see if someone could be right for your role. That's why you need ZipRecruiter. When you post your job, ZipRecruiter suggests screening questions to help you hone in on top candidates faster. And today you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Meidas. What I love is how ZipRecruiter's matching technology immediately finds qualified candidates that check all your boxes. You could even use filters to see who's recently active so you're reaching people who are ready to go now. And they recommend screening questions you can easily add so you're getting higher quality applicants right from the start. Ask key questions and hire faster with ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Meidas. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Meidas. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors, y'all. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know. We sent you real quick, Benji. Audio listeners, this is your moment. We are like 200 reviews away from hitting the 50,000 mark. Oh, couldn't be better. From hitting the 50,000 review mark on audio. So please, when you have a moment, it takes like 30 seconds. Leave a 5-star review. Leave a comment on audio wherever you get your podcast. It's really freaking helpful, and we really greatly appreciate it. So please, takes 5 seconds, 5-star review, comment. Thank you so much. That Pam Bondi thing, the Dow is over 50. You know what it reminds me of? I know it's not funny, but remember when Timberlake got arrested and he was like, "This is gonna ruin the world tour." This is the 2026 version of that. The Dow is over 50,000. I mean, just
When I watch these people, I'm legitimately like, are they on drugs? Are they drunk? Like, are they just possessed by this weird like MAGA thing? Like, it's just a very bizarre thing.
Again,
to be. It's not normal behavior
for me. Yeah, it just comes. They're bad people. Like at their core, they are bad people, and they don't care about the American person. They genuinely don't.
And they do weird stuff with dogs also. You remember, like, so you have Kristi Noem's like a dog killer, right? Like, and then the story of Pam, the story of Pam Bondi, right? What was it, after Hurricane Katrina? Oh, yeah. She like stole somebody's dog and then wouldn't give the dog back and like instituted litigation to like keep the stolen dog that she took. And the family's like, can we have our dog back, please?
Remember when, I know this isn't exactly the same thing, but remember when Ted Cruz flew to Cancun and there was the image that he left his dog behind? That was great.
Look, so it's just a great point though. Like let me stay on this thread for a second, right? You've got Pam Bondi's weird background that I just,
put aside that Pam Bondi did everything with the dog. Put aside.
we can't do the put aside thing anymore. I think we tested our entire audience patience with that.
Or that Kristi Noem like kills all of her pets. But just think about like Pete Hegseth's background, right? Degenerate, nonprofits crashed into the ground, investigated, allegations of sexual abuse, just overall, like just bad person, allegations of heavy drinking, and denial of that after admitting it. His own mom sent him a letter like, I'm horrified by you. And then the mommy had to speak with the Senate. Remember when you guys remember for the Department of Defense, that when he was at his hearing, his mommy had to go and speak with the senators. They called in mommy to say, I know I wrote the letter to my son and said that he was having all of these issues and he's destroyed the lives of his wives, but mommy didn't really mean that. And my son's going to be a very good boy, right? And meanwhile, you have the Department of Defense, this past week, they caused the shutdown of the airspace over El Paso because they were trying to test lasers to shoot down birthday party balloons that they were claiming to be Mexican cartel drones, but were balloons from a nearby party. And then they blamed the shutdown of airspace on an invasion by Mexican cartel drones, when in fact it was the FAA having to shut down the airspace because they were worried that the lasers from Hegseth were going to kill people flying airplanes. And then think about that was like that type of story. Like, do you remember when what's the guy's name? It was the former governor of New Jersey shut down the bridge, and that was like one of the biggest scandals. Like dude, Trump does that every morning before a
10-day airspace shutdown is just so bonkers. Like when I woke up to they're shutting down the airspace over El Paso for 10 days. That's like, are we going to war? Is there a nuclear bomb headed towards the U.S.? Are we about to invade Mexico? Like any thought could possibly run through your head. And it's just the utter incompetence of these people. And then the lying again, blaming it on Mexico and drones and cartels. I mean, give me a goddamn break.
I want to stay on this thread. Howard Lutnick, we know he brings his children to Epstein Island. So we know, right? RFK Jr., put it this way. When the story broke about RFK Jr., that he killed the bear and then took the dead bear and put it in Central Park so that people would be horrified when they saw a dead bear, like no one even blinked that was even like a story. Like, yeah, I did that. And it was like, you were on Epstein's plane. Oh yeah, everyone was on Epstein's plane, I guess. Or when RFK Jr. is in the Epstein files and they're describing how his wife allegedly died by suicide, but the autopsy shows that her hands were trying to pull a noose off, and notably Epstein, others, the story of Epstein's death certainly doesn't make a lot of sense, but Epstein goes whoops regarding RFK Jr. and again, not only just being in those files, but RFK Jr., like with his anti-vax stuff, like killing thousands of people in other kind of islands and countries when he would go there with the same anti-vax stuff, and not to mention just all of his quackery and hate. And then he kept a book of all the people he was cheating on his wife with, which was which was found next to her when she allegedly died by suicide, but it was, but there's very mysterious circumstance. I mean, just think about these people. I mean, you've got, what's his name? The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who lived in a pink Barbie. He painted he's lived in a pink Barbie mansion in Charleston. And, you've got all of these people's backgrounds that are like, who is this entire crew of people? And like, how did you find them? I mean, you could give me a Dr. Oz. Is this, these are bad. These are like all really bad people who have spent their lives doing the worst imaginable things, and they've been brought together. And remember, who is Trump's pick before Bondi? Just think about that. Like they're literally picking people who are out there engaging in think about that's who we wanted to handle the Epstein stuff. Matt Gaetz, in case you didn't know who I was referring to. It's ridiculous. And so then Trump is asked a very basic question today as well, with all of that as background. That's my whole episode today is, or my whole role now is just side quests, and then just looking at the time, and I'm like, oh shoot, all important points to make. Donald Trump is then asked a very basic question. So you all said that a staff member was the one who was really responsible for posting the video, which included apes, and the Obama's faces were photoshopped on the apes. Clearly not just incredibly racist, like the most racist you could probably do. And so you blamed it on a staff member after people said you did it first, and that's just the way you meme. So clearly there's got to be some accountability for the staff member. Did he fire the staff member, discipline the staff member? And just think about it, folks. Like, what if, again, somebody in your company, a nonprofit, a social group, did that behavior, right? They took a photo of somebody who's black that you knew, and then photoshopped that on an ape and did it in the group chat with you, right? Like, if you didn't get rid of that friend, if you didn't speak up, if that person wasn't fired from their job, if that person wasn't held to the most serious ramifications, we would all be like, this is a despicable company or group. What is this, the Klan? Like, who is doing this? And so Trump's asked the question. Here, this is what he says. Let's play it.
President, have you fired or disciplined that staffer who posted the video from your account that included the Obamas?
No, I haven't. That was a video on, as you know, voter fraud, and fairly long video, and they had a little piece and had to do with the Lion King. It's been very well, it's been shown all over the place long before that was posted. But that was a very strong, and I'm sure you saw it, a very strong piece on voter fraud. And the piece that you're talking about was all over the place many times, I believe for years. Yeah, please.
Okay, that's not a normal reaction. That, again, let's just assume he wasn't the one who posted it. Set that aside. Use the same kind of framing that I did before. So you are now aware of it, right? You're aware that as the president of the United States, you posted a photo, the first black president and the first black first lady. You went out of your way to post a photo with their faces photoshopped on apes. And you claim somebody else did it, but it was posted in your name, on your account. Arguably, the social media account that used to be of import, the president of the United States social media account. It happened. Let's just assume you didn't do it. Don't you think that just a human being, not even with decency, but a modicum of it, a fraction of decency, not even decency, just 1/4 of decency, 1/8 of decency. Okay. Wouldn't you just say, That was screwed up. I didn't know it was in there. I apologize if that caused the Obamas or anybody at all any type of harm. And I will do a better job. I'll do a better job making these types of posts. Do we have, Brett, the video of Prime Minister Carney reacting to the horrible shooting that took place in British Columbia, which killed 9 innocent people? The shooter died as well. It was a school shooting in the high school there. 25 injured. Horrible, horrible shooting in the high school. And Prime Minister Carney shows up to Parliament and he's asked about it.
I'm not sure.
What'd you say, Brett?
I don't think we have it.
Okay, well, I'll pull it. I want to pull it up, after the next break, though, because it is someone who he was crying. I'll just describe it. Prime Minister Carney was crying and very emotional, and I'm going to give all of the resources and do everything I can. And this is a national tragedy. And on the day when that happened in Canada, Donald Trump was making social media posts attacking Canada, saying that we're going to invade your bridge and the bridge belongs to us, and the tariffs against no one treats us worse than Canada, and the tariffs against Canada are the best thing ever. Not calling the prime minister, not calling your neighbor, not making any posts reflecting solidarity with the people of Canada, posting attacks against Canada. And, it's again, I say this a lot, but there should be nothing political about any of what I've just described and discussed. This should just be pure adult behavior. Forget adult behavior. Just human being behavior with these children shouldn't behave like this. And that's to me what this is. And so this fog of MAGA mutation, this fog of MAGA weirdness, of MAGA hate, of MAGA perversion, of MAGA pedo, of MAGA everything. That's the vapor, the toxic fumes, right? That have infected this nation, where it's people aren't thinking straight, and corporate news tries to capture that in a bucket as here's this side and here's this side, and this is a Democrat. This is deranged stuff. And not to mention, of course, these predators are going to then prey on Greenland and prey on Minnesota and prey on all of these cities and send these masked agents who are terrorists and who dress up as terrorists engage in the horrors that are taking place. I'm not going to play this clip, but one of the things that Donald Trump said at that press conference as well regarding going to war with Iran, I showed this in a video I did earlier, is Trump says, we're going to make it traumatic. That's the words he used. When it comes to Iran, if they don't do a deal with us, we're going to make it traumatic. One point there as well. Let's not forget that last month, Donald Trump told the protesters in Iran, go out, protest the Ayatollah. We got your back. If the Ayatollah does anything to you, we will come in, quote, guns a-blazing. We did not even have the military capabilities to be helping out the protesters because our equipment was in the Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela. And I did an interview with Senator Warner from Virginia earlier in the day that I'll air either later or tomorrow. Our allies also don't want to share intelligence with us. So we had no levers with Europe or other allies in the or near the region to put pressure on Iran while Trump was posting, get out there and protest, to which the Ayatollah massacred all the protesters, to which Trump then took credit because you know how his call went with them. You got to give me something. You got to give me a little bit. You got to give me something that I can say, right? That's what happened. And they go, well, we won't hang 762 people. They probably gave a different number. They probably said 100 and Trump made up the number 762. But Trump's like, the Ayatollah was very respectful and they've agreed not to hang 762 people. Anyway, I just want to connect all of those things together because
let me just say this because you've been going on for a little while. And I want to go back to what you were talking about before, which is the just degeneracy of this movement and MAGA. And it really is their North Star, this moral depravity that they have. And I'll give you just two quick data points right here. As you know, we reported on here on the MeidasTouch podcast. We've been reporting on these tweets, these social media posts that have come from the Department of Labor that have been just Nazi posts. They've been white nationalist posts, Nazi posts. They've had allusions to Adolf Hitler. They've had capital HH. They've had Nazi phrasing, using Nazi titles, look just like kind of Nazi era posters. And so in a normal administration, right, you would think, oh, the individual who's responsible for those, once it became obvious that that's what that individual was doing, what you got to do is you got to get rid of that person. You cannot have that toxicity, not in the United States of America, not somebody running an account as such importance as the Department of Labor account. Are you freaking kidding me? Well, it turns out the individual who ran that account, it's a guy named 21-year-old named Peyton Rollins, and he was hired this month to run the Homeland Security's social media account. So he got a promotion, is my point. He was rewarded for that behavior. Quite the contrary to being punished in like what a normal administration would do. And there are just example after example after example of that. Another example, let me show you this email from Greg Bavino. Greg Bavino, he was the guy who was doing all the ICE raids, the guy who dressed like a Nazi in his big, cloak and his big jacket that he wore, his kind of Nazi style. He was terrorizing the streets of Minneapolis. And there was an agent who shot a woman in Minneapolis, and you would think after that happened, I think he shot this woman like 5 times, and there's like this is like a big story right now. You would think that you would try to tell that agent, maybe next time, de-escalate the situation. We're putting you on leave. We're firing you. You're going to face charges. There are going to be consequences. This is not how you treat people. But again, quite the contrary. Greg Bavino, who ran the operation, I should say, the chief border patrol agent at the time, writes to that officer, and here's an email that I have pulled up right here, and says, "Good afternoon. I'd like to extend an offer for you to extend your retirement beyond age 57. This will be your second extension, and we'd like you to consider this if feasible. In light of your excellent service in Chicago, you have much left to do. Joe, would you have staff work with Mr. Hegseth to accomplish in this most illustrative endeavor? Thank you." And so, illustrative endeavor. So you have that right there, where instead of punishing this individual who committed these heinous acts, you have Gregory Bavino saying, we actually want you, we're going to change the rules for you. We want you to work longer, in fact. An incredible job. That's exactly what we are looking for here in Border Patrol. That's exactly what we are looking for in this administration. And it gets to that moral rot and that moral depravity that exists throughout every single branch of this regime.
Want to talk more about that when we come back from our last quick break of the show. A quick reminder, we're on our way to 6 million subscribers. Help us hit 6 million. Can we try to do it in February? It's going to be tough, but let's do our best. So hit subscribe, turn your notifications on. And one way you can help, share this channel with 3 people or 6 people. Oh, 6 people, 3 people, 6 people. 6 million, 6 people. Share it with 6 people. Just text it to 6 people. Say, hey, do you watch the MeidasTouch Network? Maybe check out this podcast. Give it a shot. See how they analyze the issues and show them this podcast in particular. That would be one of the best ways you can help us right now. So we're going to go to commercial break. Check out our pro-democracy sponsors and our great sponsors. Discount codes in the description below. And copy and paste this YouTube channel and send it to 6 friends right now. And say, Ben, Brett, and Jordy ask that you watch this. We'll be right back after our last quick break.
All right, quick question. Is your debit card boring? Be honest. If I could design my perfect debit card, I'd probably throw something clean but fun on it. Maybe a bold color splash or something that represents late night takeout or early morning coffee runs. And if Cash App could add the perfect discount based on where I spend the most, let's just say coffee shops and food delivery would be at the top of that list. I feel like we all have that one place that we would love automatic cash back from. Now here's what's actually new. Cash App just released a new status program for the way people actually spend called Cash App Green. It unlocks new ways for you to pay, get rewarded, and easily grow or manage your money on your terms. Now, when you spend at least $500 a month with the Cash App card or Cash App Pay, you earn green status, which unlocks benefits like up to $200 of free overdraft coverage, higher borrow limits, and custom personalized cashback offers every Friday at places you love to shop. Turn everyday spending into status with Cash App Green. Download Cash App today or visit cash.app/new to learn more about this and other great features launching now. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use the code CashApp10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sudden Bank, member FDIC. Cash App Green, overdraft coverage, borrow, cashback offers, and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
ED is more common than you think and simpler to treat than ever. Through HIMS, you can connect online with a licensed provider to access personalized treatment options discreetly and on your terms. Through HIMS, you can access personalized prescription treatment options for ED if prescribed. HIMS offers access to ED treatment options ranging from personalized products to trusted generics that cost 95% less than brand names if prescribed. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. HIMS brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatments that put your goals first. This isn't a one-size-fits-all care that forgets you in the waiting room. It's your health and goals put first, with real medical providers making sure that you get what you need to get results. Think of HIMS as your digital front door that gets you back to your old self with simple 100% online access to trusted treatments for ED and more, all in one place. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/Meidas. That's hims.com/Meidas for your free online visit. hims.com/Meidas. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information. Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. Let's go. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. There's an exit survey. Let them know we sent you. Benji, before I give it back to you, to the live viewers right now and to the audio viewers, how'd it go? Did you send the link to 6 people? What did they say? Are they watching right now? I know you guys aren't going to let us down. So please, if you haven't yet, send this link to anybody, to any 6 people you know. Benji, where to next?
If you're wondering what Trump was holding that press conference for, it was to repeal the endangerment finding, the EPA's authority to regulate climate pollution. And it's a 2009, it's called the endangerment finding, which determines that greenhouse gases are dangerous to public health under the Clean Air Act, and it underpins the limits on emissions from power plants and all the facilities that pollute, right? The kind of main regulatory authority has to hinge on this endangerment finding, and should not be even a disputed fact that these greenhouse gases are causing harm, are a danger to public health. It's like a basic, universally agreed science fact. Under the Trump regime, that's what they were announcing today. You have former President Barack Obama posted the following. Today, the Trump administration repealed the endangerment finding, the ruling that served as the basis for limits on tailpipe emissions and power plant rules. Without it, we'll be less safe, less healthy, and less able to fight climate change. And also, the fossil fuel industry can make even more money. You know, and the Trump regime has that mascot that you may have seen, Coley. They call him Coley, and it's a piece of coal with a smiley face that looks like AI generated. Coley, that's the mascot. It's like, and then you had what was it, yesterday? The coal industry showed up at the White House before this announcement, and they gave Donald Trump a trophy. They gave him the #1 coal lover trophy or something like that. Like they have to give the guy a trophy, and like he accepted it as though it was like a real award. And this is something that's just going to kill people. It's going to result in people dying and getting cancers and getting sick. You know, and I think about also the children who are locked up in concentration camps in the United States, like Dilly and Delaney and others. ProPublica did an incredible piece where they read these letters, and even the kids there were saying, we barely get food, we barely get any water, and when we drink the water is what's making us sick. And like there's a reason why you have the endangerment finding and findings like this, because I mean, does everybody remember watching the Aaron Brockovich movie or movies like do we realize that we've uncovered as a society that these polluters, their behavior it's causing cancers, and it's causing sickness, and it's causing global warming, and it's causing systemic issues that actually, even if you wanted to view this selfishly and economically, the net impact of allowing the pollution to spread decreases the productivity and harms the economy. And you know, because sick people can't work. If that's truly all you cared about from just a pure selfish, we need better workers who are healthy, you're going to make them sick. And you're going to make productivity harder if people are coughing and people can't show up and things break. And if there's no world to live in eventually, you know, and what's all of this for? And also there's a way to focus on climate change and make money. And America was focused on that under former President Biden. Now China's, of course, leading the way. Here's Donald Trump making that announcement that we are terminating all green emission standards. Like that was his day today. Cover up sex trafficking and terminating green emission standards. Here, play this clip.
That is why, effective immediately, we're repealing the ridiculous endangerment finding and terminating all additional green emission standards imposed unnecessarily on vehicle models and engines between 2012 and 2027 and beyond. This action will save American consumers trillions of dollars and will lower the average cost of a new vehicle by close to $3,000.
That's how he spent his day. Two things I want to hit on also, just super quickly. If you have the ability, watch the interview I did with Hallie Robson, one of these survivors of Epstein. I've been doing long form interviews with survivors. You may have saw last week Anushka DeGeorgia. And I spoke with Hallie Robson, who was sexually assaulted by Epstein when she was 16 years old in West Palm Beach. Watch that interview. And it's important we tell the story of survivors. Go back and watch the full video I did on the ballroom, because the ballroom is very close to being blocked right now by a federal judge. And now Donald Trump is arguing that if this is true, if he can't build this, it's not true, but this is what he's arguing, that if he can't build the ballroom, his life is placed in risk because of the rubble and because of destroying it and other factors like maybe asbestos or other things that are the health hazards that are being created right now by his own demolition. A ballroom needs to be built because his life is in jeopardy, and also because he demolished the East Wing. it's creating a logistical nightmare for the Secret Service. So that's why the judge will harm the Secret Service and harm Donald Trump's life if he's not able to build his bomb. That's an actual argument that they're making in the brief. And then they're also arguing, and I said this, remember I said this several months ago, and people thought again I was like a conspiracy theorist. I was like, they're using taxpayer dollars to deal with the bunker underneath. I said, just like Hitler wanted to build the bunker underneath his ballroom, this is how authoritarians think. They're redoing that bunker that was built in World War II to withstand nuclear weapons because of Trump's paranoia. They're like, bunker boy, you're talking about bunker. That's what's Trump submitted 2 classified declarations to the judge saying that the ballroom now presents a national security risk if it's not built because of what's happening that can't be talked about publicly. But 2 classified declarations from like the CIA and the director of national intelligence were submitted to the judge. And they're using national security as a pretext to say you can't block the president's ability to build a ballroom. So if you believe Donald Trump, which you shouldn't on anything, that it's being fully funded by private sources, that means that what? A group of billionaires, oligarchs, are doing something that's critical to our national security? Or do you think more likely also the taxpayers are paying for this and Trump's a liar like he lies about absolutely everything? I think that he's a liar and lies about absolutely everything. So there was that. I want to show 2 quick clips of, I think, really important aspects from the hearings of Bondi that's not getting enough attention. I think the most important document or types of documents that are being withheld were pointed out by Democratic Congressmember Dan Goldman. Let me show you what he was able to show Bondi, this document that was redacted. That's a conversation between Epstein and Ghislaine, where Trump's lawyers and Epstein's lawyers, I believe it's what in here, are talking about Trump's relationship with Epstein. Okay, this document is redacted. Focus on this document. This is a critical document. And these are the types of documents that they're withholding. And you'll see Pam Bondi says, privilege. It's a privileged document. That's why I'm not producing it. Let's play it.
I also found an email that I have right here from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell that was unredacted. And it included notes of statements that Donald Trump made about his prior relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there is no reason for this to be hidden from the American people. There is no privilege. There is no attorney-client privilege. And I see you're checking with your staff. And I can assure you, staff, this is not under attorney-client privilege because it was sent from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Will you commit to publicly providing the unredacted version of this so that the American people can understand the extent of Donald Trump's lies about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
You're about as good of a lawyer today as you were when you tried to impeach President Trump in 2016. Have you apologized for that in 2019?
So will you unredact this? Will you unredact this?
You were lead counsel on that. Privileged.
I'm asking you, will you unredact this?
Privileged.
Privileged, of course. I look forward to discussing this more.
Privileged.
I mean, not to mention technically he was successful with the impeachment. He got impeached. So.
Privileged. And so they're using this idea that they get to decide and adjudicate, that they're the judges over privilege claims, such that they can withhold things on the grounds of attorney-client privilege, deliberative process privilege. What would be the privilege, just think about it, of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein talking to each other? What's the privilege of Ghislaine and Jeffrey? Why is that a privileged communication? So just think about that document. Again, I don't care what political party you're from. That's what they're covering up, right?
And that's why there is no, but I like this part, but not that part, because the but there is that protecting pedos, that they don't want that information. Why can't we see that email? What's going on there? What are they trying to hide? And I think the answer becomes quite obvious. And it's the Trump regime's overall and complete involvement.
I'll just say this. I think I know what's in the document, though. Just if you connect a lot of dots right there. I believe it's an email from this is all from the various sourcing that I think it's Trump's lawyers sending an email to Epstein's lawyers in order to prevent Trump from being deposed in some of the Epstein cases, saying that Epstein was never actually a member of Mar-a-Lago, but was always just invited as a guest. And Trump's DOJ wants to hide that because that would rebut Donald Trump's entire claim that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of the club. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what's behind those redactions. I think we need to see it. Right. If you piece together what Raskin said and other, I think that's what's behind that document.
Yeah. And you could say like, oh, but I thought they were allowing the members of Congress to see the unredacted files. They scrubbed them before. They're giving them access to this. So these documents, many of these documents were already redacted early on. Remember when we reported those FBI agents, they assigned people to sift through and look for Trump's name and black things out. Before they even handed over this tranche of documents, they were already blacked out. So these are just the additional redactions done since then that are being unredacted for the members of Congress. And then, of course, as we mentioned earlier in this episode, they're also tracking the searches of the individual members of Congress who go into the DOJ to look at these things. They're giving them individual usernames and passwords, and they are monitoring what they are doing on these computers. And then they were trying to weaponize those searches in order to use in Pam Bondi's burn book when she was fighting back against them during this hearing. She had a list, and it was seen in those photographs where it said each individual searches through the Epstein files. So everything they do makes them look guiltier and guiltier. It's one of those situations, like Jordy said last time, normally you'd say like the cover-up is worse than the crime. The crimes are so heinous that I don't even think that's possible, but the cover-up certainly ain't helping things out. And it just constantly is making them look guiltier and guiltier and guiltier. And it is clear that they are covering up a whole lot. And it is clear that they view their job right now as not lawyers of the United States fighting for justice. That's supposed to be Pam Bondi's job. There really isn't even supposed to be much communication in general between an attorney general and the president of the United States. But Pam Bondi views her job, and Todd Blanche views his job, and his job was to be the defense attorneys of Donald Trump. And that's what it comes down to. And that's how they're behaving. And that's why it's just so.
She said it in the hearing. It was one of her quotes in the burn book. Donald Trump, the best president of our lifetime.
That's not normal. That's not how an attorney general is supposed to speak, behave. That's not what they're supposed to be doing.
You want to talk about weaponization, how they would always complain, oh, the weaponization of the Biden. Y'all are looking at it right now, daily, in your face. That Bondi here, that will go down in the history books as one of the most embarrassing moments for the Republican Party. And there's no getting that stain off you. Once you are labeled a pedo protector, that's who you are. And that's who Pam Bondi is at her core.
Look, everything with them is projection. I mean, they're sociopath, like they're real sociopathic people. It's why earlier in the episode, I just laid out, like, if you look at these people's backgrounds, like their whole life, they've been real demented sociopaths who have done demented and sociopathic things like in their entire life, like bad people who all found each other in this bad, heinous cabal right now. Two more things I want to point out. Number one, I mentioned earlier in the episode that the Trump regime announced that it would be withdrawing from Minnesota. Tom Homan announced it earlier in the day that he said that we're going to Operation Metro Surge is over. I always say don't trust and always verify when it comes to the Trump regime. So we'll see that. A Trump appointed judge by the name of Nancy Brazel issued an order earlier, an hour or so ago, saying that the Trump regime committed a mass violation of ICE detainees' constitutional rights in Minnesota, effectively blocking their access to attorneys in the Whipple building. Kyle Cheney's reporting on this ruling. Trump appointed judge. Here's what it says in the ruling. It appears that in planning for Operation Metro Surge, the government failed to plan for the constitutional rights of its civil detainees. The government suggests, with minimal explanation and even less evidence, that doing so would result in chaos. The Constitution does not permit the government to arrest thousands of individuals and then disregard their constitutional rights because it would be too challenging to honor those rights. At this preliminary stage, plaintiffs have made a clear showing of likelihood of success on their Fifth Amendment claim right there. So we'll follow that ruling. And then in the House, as I mentioned earlier, there was a vote where MAGA Mike Johnson failed to be able to put forward a rule that would have blocked any debate or votes for a year of Trump's tariffs against the world, including Canada, Mexico, and other places. So MAGA Mike wanted to sneak in a basic rule that just basically supposed to set like the time limits for debate, a rule that you're not allowed to have debates over tariffs, which is quite literally the core one of the core Article 1 of the Constitution functions. That was voted down. And then immediately once that when that was voted down, because voting on tariffs, I won't get into the nuances of it, but it's called a privileged resolution. You're able to bring a vote on tariffs right away to the floor. So a vote on Canada was brought to the floor yesterday in tariffs against Canada. And by 219 to 211, pretty big numbers actually, the Trump tariffs against Canada were revoked by the House. Now that has to go back to the Senate. It'll probably pass in the Senate. And then Donald Trump's going to want to try. Trump can still veto it. Then it would need a super majority in order to make it veto proof. But in any event, it showed the cracks right now in Trump's ability to hold together the floor. Trump sent out his threats. If you vote against it, I'm going after you, blah, 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 blah. And it was still a 219 to 211. I think we're going to see more of that. Donald Trump's approval is in the toilet bowl right now, or it's already flushed down the drain. It's in like the 30s, like lowest ever everything, the most hated and despised in history. Pretty much since the low point of Nixon. I mean, it's basically right there right now. American people hate this. As the cover-up gets worse, I think people are going to continue to speak out. And then I'll just mention this as well. A George W. Bush appointed judge, Judge Leon in D.C., granted Senator Kelly's preliminary injunction stopping Pete Hegseth from like demoting him and like retaliating against him. And the court basically wrote Hegseth would be wise to perhaps look at military leaders and others before him for guidance about how things were done for the past 250 years before Hegseth. It's a pretty scathing order. So covered a lot of topics here. Brett, anything else that we should cover before we go?
I think all of this just shows how desperate they are, honestly. It shows how weak they are. And you see it in the polling. You see that even a lot of these kind of MAGA voters and Trump voters are no longer buying what they're selling. And I think the way they've handled the whole Epstein situation was really an in for a lot of these people, just to see how full of shit they all are and how really depraved that they are. And now it's just coming apart at the seams everywhere you look. And so I think as you see them trying to indict these members of Congress, and as you see just everything that Donald Trump and these people are doing right now, like, to me, you can't look at Pam Bondi in that hearing and not hear the panic in her voice and not see the panic in her face. And I think they know that this house of cards is coming down. We're going to keep following it all here. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember to add the MeidasTouch Podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, anywhere you listen to audio podcasts. Remember to check us out on Substack at MeidasPlus.com. We got Meidas merch at store.MeidasTouch.com. Buy it for yourself, buy it for your family members. We got Made in the US stuff, and we got Made in Canada merch for all of our Maple Meidas out there. So elbows up, folks. Thank you again. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.